One natural disaster could change your life forever. What can you do? Turn to AARP. We help older adults and their families prepare, respond, and recover with evacuation checklists to help you remember prescriptions and other essentials, information to help you avoid scammers, connections to on-the-ground emergency responders, and lots of other tips and tools. At AARP, we're here to help. Find us at aarp.org/local.
Weather, highways. How you doing, everybody? I'm Chief Meteorologist Denis Phillips. Heat's still the hot topic of weather conversation, right? Just smashed the previous record for rainfall in Tampa. Still a very nice day. We've got some clouds out there, even a couple of sprinkles as another front rolls through the area. Most of us wake up to sunshine and then very warm temperatures in the afternoon. For temperatures, they're going up and they're staying up. Really nice forecast, especially if you're planning on going to the beach or the pool. Rain chances very slim. Another beautiful day in store. It's going to bring us a very high chance of storms. Some isolated showers across the area. Mother Nature likes to remind us that it isn't set by a calendar. We're always on it for you, just in case things begin to pop.
Streaming from the ABC Action Weather Center in Studio A, this is Denis Phillips Live, sponsored by AARP Tampa Bay.
Hey down, everybody. It is a Thursday night edition of Denis Phillips Live. I'm ABC Action News Chief Meteorologist Denis Phillips. I did notice a couple of people saying, oh my heavens, I got a notification. Is there something wrong, or do we have severe weather? No, we do this every Tuesday and Thursday night. Sometimes we talk about the tropics. Sometimes we talk about what y'all want to talk about. I actually think I want to talk about fantasy football coming up as well, maybe next week, since the season is about to start. But we do actually have a lot of stuff going on. Today is the last day of August. Again, I want to thank everybody, especially the new folks who are here, maybe found us during the hurricane season or during the last storm that came through. And we have actually got a lot of stuff popping over the next 7 to 10 days out in the Atlantic. We're going to go over that. Or we're going to go over our rain chances, which will continue tonight into tomorrow. We've got a holiday weekend upon us. Lots going on. As always, I always like to start off with hellos. Hello to all the folks who are stopping by. We've got folks from Michigan. We've got Kathy in Hudson. I will be honest, used to be a lot easier for me to see these comments on here than it is now. My kids always mock me, Dad, I always thought you have good eyesight. Oh yeah, I'm 20/20 if it's a long way away, but close stuff, not so much anymore. Barbara in Homosassa Springs, how are you? Hopefully you guys made it okay with all the water. Got another Michigander here. Kelly from Michigan is here. West Chase with Kathy. Nice to see you. Peggy in Hudson. Riverview's in the house with April. So we do have lots of folks, but actually we've got quite a few. I mean, typically when it's quiet out there might only be 400 or 500. We're around 1,500, and we've got a lot of folks in streaming as well. St. Pete's in the house with Tracy. April with the hello stud comment. You clearly are looking at the wrong screen. Port Charlotte's in the house with Jen. So Lutz is here, Colleen. Again, a lot of folks here. Jersey's in the house here. Jill. So we've got a lot of stuff to talk about. Before we get going, again, I want to thank everybody for your support. It's been a wild week, a stressful week, I think, for everybody. Hopefully you'll have a good holiday weekend, get a chance to enjoy, and we're not going to have to worry about the tropics. I do want to get a few things out there. Starting today through the weekend, all of our Rule Number 7 stuff will benefit, the proceeds will benefit hurricane survivors, hurricane victims from the American Red Cross Hurricane Relief Fund. If you look on the very top of my Facebook page, you will see the last post, one up above this one really, that shows all of our stuff. It links to the hoodies, the tees, the tanks, the coffee mugs. The Etsy stuff is all, the one link is the Etsy stuff, the tumblers, the coffee mugs, all the stuff. The clothing is on the Teespring link. And again, proceeds benefit the Hurricane Relief Fund for the Red Cross. So again, thank you for all the support. And here, as always, stars also for the next 3 days. Well, I guess it would just be today because we're only going to do one tonight and tomorrow's Friday. We're not going to have one tomorrow unless something magically would happen in the tropics, and I don't think it will. So all stars also will be donated for the Hurricane Relief Fund. So again, thank you very much for your generosity, helping your neighbors. You know, obviously this is one where those neighbors are pretty close by, even in Citrus County and areas off to the north. All right, so let's go ahead and start with tropics, okay? Because, and I'm going to go ahead and take these full screen for the time being, and then I'll jump back in at times when you guys know when I want to make a point, which I often do. Let's see. Here we go. I'm going to go ahead and show tropics. There are the tropics over there. You got that big yellow area. Like I was saying, I think I'd actually rather take it full screen because it might be a little bit easier to see. All right, here we go. So you've got Tropical Storm Jose, which we're not interested in, moving north. You've got that area in red, also not interested in. It's going to be moving north. But Penn State, Penn State. So we do have this area in yellow, and that is one, while it certainly is not posing any kind of imminent issue or threat, there is definitely, it is something we cannot completely blow off. And I'll show you why with the models, actually. And since we're talking about it now, I'll just go ahead and show you the models on it as well. So we're definitely looking at that area in yellow. And let's see where that takes us. We're going to go ahead and start with the models. We will start with the GFS. The hashtag cha-ching GFS for newcomers. It is hashtag cha-ching because there is some joker out there on Twitter who swears that I get paid by the GFS anytime I say the GFS model. The fact that it's a math formula apparently does not bother that individual. All right, 24 hours out. So you've got the remnants of Idalia. You've got, I don't know, I always mix up the pronunciation, always. You have Jose, and then you got the little area off, and then you got another one that's going to exit Africa, and that's the one that we're going to be watching. So a lot going on out there. I mean, early September, a third of all named storms develop in the month of September. So it is certainly an active year. And to think that we've had our one storm and it's over simply is not a wise way to look at things. It will continue to be active right through October. It's just going to happen. I mean, I wish that was it, but it's just not the case. So you got lots of stuff going on out there, right? This takes us out to 72 hours. This just takes out to 96 hours. You got that trio, that conga line of low pressures in the central Gulf, but none of which really appear to be bothering anybody. You do have, you know, the possibility, by the way, you got some loops going on. Look at those loops. So there's definitely, and then, you know, so even the ones well off of the East Coast cannot completely write them off in terms of maybe the Mid-Atlantic or New England, but what we're looking at 186 hours is this area down here, okay? So let's just go ahead and play this and see where this decides to go. So there it is. It's still trying to take more of a northerly turn. GFS is bringing it more north. Turns it into a hurricane, but keeps it pretty north. Now, what is that going on in the Caribbean? Let's go back. I'm going to pause this, stop it, and then do it frame by frame. So you do have this area down here that is trying to get a little bit better organized, but not really. And you got this one right here, goes into the Caribbean. Actually, that one is, you know, doesn't really do much, but is that the one from the beginning? The GFS with this particular computer software is really a bear. Is that the one? Yeah, I'm looking at it. There it is. There it is. There it. Yeah, that is the one. So it actually becomes pretty much, it's nothing to it until it finally gets into the islands, and then you start to see it right there. Right there. See that? And then it does start to go into the Caribbean a little bit. The Euro is a little bit farther north, but you just see all this action going on in the east of the United States. So I don't know. It's really not a big deal, but it is something that bears watching. I'm not even going to say close watching, but bears watching just because it is that time of the year. But I want to show you the Euro. So, and by the way, I must give major props to the Euro because the Euro nailed our last hurricane, Idalia, maybe as well as any storm 10 to 14 days out that I've seen in a long time. Now, it did keep developing it and pushing it back and pushing it back and pushing it back before development. And usually when that happens, it's because the models aren't seeing things clearly. The GFS does it all the time, and the GFS is usually wrong with that sort of thing. The Euro did keep pushing it back about 3 or 4 days, but once it showed development, I mean, it did exactly what the Euro was predicting. It was really an impressive forecast from a model that far out. We're talking nearly 2 weeks out in some cases. But I do want to show you the Euro. So this is 48 hours. There's a lot going on. There's 72 hours from now. There's 96. It does start to loop back the remnants of Idalia. So there it is off the Carolinas. See it? There's Friday morning. It's mixing up with whatever the heck that's to the northeast. And then you see it start to stall out and start to loop back and then get kind of close to the northeast with landfall possibly again in Jersey. So our Jersey folks here. So that's the Euro. And why do I say we should watch it? Because it's had Idalia's number, hasn't it? I mean, it has been all over this storm for a long time. So, you know, we look at this one, and the Euro does loop it back and brings it back to the mid-Atlantic or the Northeast. So it is one that we'll continue to watch because some of the models have shown that. But let's look at what's going on in the tropical Atlantic, because this is the area that's a little more interesting. I guess the other one's interesting for the New Jersey folks, but let's look. So you've got a couple of waves coming off of Africa, which is exactly what happens this time of the year. I mean, we are coming up on the peak of hurricane season, and that is, so that you have one right there, and you've got another one right there, okay? So let's watch what happens. So this first one right here starts to move to the north. Now, you guys have heard me say this so many times. The positioning of the Bermuda High is everything with the tropical Atlantic hurricane in the month of September. All right? It is the key to everything. Because if those highs settle in and block a storm from moving north, it's going to push it into Florida or the southeast. That's one scenario. But if the high begins to retreat and backbuild a little bit to the northeast, it allows them to curve, whether it's the Carolinas or whether it misses everything. So the positioning of the Bermuda High is absolutely positively the most important part of the tracking position of a tropical Atlantic hurricane in the month of September. Okay? So that's what we have now. We are looking at 198 hours, we're looking at that low, and it looks like it starts to lift north, right? See how it's kind of like lifting north? And it's way north of the islands down here. There's Puerto Rico, you know, down in this area. So way north, you're like, all right, this one's going to turn, we got no problems. Then you start to see the ridging build. Look at the high right here. Look at your Bermuda High, okay? And look at what the Bermuda High starts to do. It starts to build down, and then you get a ridge building right here. See that? That's a ridge. Now, when you see a ridge develop, especially right in here when pressures are higher, all of a sudden you no longer have a track that looks like it's going to go this way, but maybe that track starts to go more this way. Now, this is 8, 9, 10 days out, but again, my point in this is showing you that the positioning of this ridge is absolutely positively the most important thing in developing and tracking a tropical cyclone in the Atlantic in the month of September. By the way, there's the Euro, there's the GFS. Not even close. But what do they share in common? What do they share? The track and positioning of the low is totally different and insignificant. But what do they share in common? Ridge GFS, Ridge Euro. Ridge GFS, Ridge Euro. Think of a ridge as a mountain of air. And what will happen is instead of a system trying to go around it, it will often stay below it. So there's the ridge, and then it's just a matter of what happens at that point, and that's as far out as the model goes. So the ridge does begin to break down, and it does eventually turn. But, you know, this is almost 12 days out, so it doesn't mean anything. But what it does mean is the fact that if a ridge builds in at any point in time as a tropical low is cutting across the Atlantic, that is a situation and a scenario that we want to avoid at all costs, obviously, right? And by the way, look, and I say, Mike Boylan's my buddy. I've known the guy forever. His website still has more amazing links than anyone out there. It's so easy just to pick and click and just go on your way. So I applaud my buddy for having a very, very great website that I can just click on something and use it, and that's pretty awesome. And that's what I do on a lot of these maps, truth be told. Okay, so that is a look at the long range. This is from the Global Tropics Hazard Outlook, and this takes us from September 6th through the 12th, and then it takes us the following week. Now, there's a couple of things in here that I want to show you that I think are kind of interesting. First of all, here is your key. Tropical cyclone formation, if you have a red hatch, it's 10%, or greater than 20, rather. If you have the solid red, it's greater than 40. If you have, actually, no, it is at, greater than 40, and the other one is greater than 60. Now, the other thing is I want to show you is the below average rainfall. The brown color is the drier regions. And that is going to come into play when I'm showing you right here, all right? So let me go ahead and get rid of this, and I'm going to zoom in to this. Okay, so this is the first one. This is the first week. This is next week. What are things that we see here? First of all, you see this brown area south of Puerto Rico? You see this brown area? That is an area that means below average rainfall. Typically in an El Nino year, the majority of the times in an El Nino year, the Caribbean is shut down. Now, even with our last storm, development really didn't develop in the Caribbean. It developed in the extreme northern Caribbean, southern Gulf, so it's different. It certainly was not a storm that came through the Caribbean and comes up. And why, you ask, is that the case? Why is the Caribbean shut down from tropical development when it is an El Nino year? All right, well, let us talk about that. All right? So, in an El Nino year, you have warm water developing off the coast of South America. That excess amount of warm water has a significant impact on increasing development in the Pacific because there's warmer water, thus more storms. And that El Nino eventually has a pretty big impact not only on our hurricane season, but also on our winters. And in the winters, we typically have a wetter stretch of weather in the winter. How about that for alliteration? Because you've got those red arrows, which are the subtropical jet, and that subtropical jet usually energizes fronts and low pressures that come into the southeast, increasing our rain. But in the summertime, what happens is those same winds greatly reduce the risk or the threat of development in the Caribbean and in the tropical Atlantic, but even more so in the Caribbean. So you have unfavorable positioning and conditions for tropical development in the Caribbean and in the Atlantic, but even more so in the Caribbean because the winds are even more hostile. So why do I say that? Why do I talk about that? Well, because look at what we have in the Caribbean. Below average rainfall next week. But in the tropical Atlantic, where the water is warmer, we have a 20 to 40% chance of development. That is next week. All right? What about the following week? Following week, this is September 13th to the 19th. And look in the Caribbean. Again, shut down. Drier air, less rain, unfavorable conditions. Now remember, the majority of the time when we get a tropical system that is going to threaten us in the Bay Area, it is a track through the Caribbean and up in the Straits and into the Gulf. Now, the last one developed, this isn't letting me when I'm zoomed in like this. I wanted to do it, but it won't let me, alas, but I can do it like this. So, our last storm developed right here, right? But that isn't truly the Caribbean. I mean, it's just as close to the Gulf of Mexico. So that's my point. When we look at this one, with unfavorable conditions for development in the Caribbean, that is good for the Gulf of Mexico and good for the west coast of Florida, because it is far more challenging for a storm to come in from the east, split the difference between Cuba and Florida, and come back. Now, I say that because Irma and Ian both did it, but it is definitely a more difficult track. The one that we just had is a far more common track, ones that develop right here. We call them homegrown, and curve into Florida or into the northern Gulf. All right? So, the week of September 13th to 19th, we're still looking at unfavorable conditions in the Caribbean, but we're looking at much higher favorability in this area. As a matter of fact, you get this red color, and this is greater than 40% chance of a named tropical cyclone, and the path in which it is coming is one that can impact the United States. And you know what? There should be nothing surprising about that, because that is absolutely in the peak of hurricane season. So just because we had one in the northern Caribbean and move into the Gulf does not minimize or diminish the threat of more developing. Remember what NOAA came out with. Significant increase in development in September and October based on all the warm water temperatures in the Atlantic, right? So it's going to happen. We're going to have a conga line of storms. There's going to be a lot of named storms. But if they are in the tropical Atlantic, this area right here, go back to take it full again. If they are in this area right here, they are far less likely to impact our area on the West Coast than they are on the East Coast or the Carolinas or the Southeast or the Mid-Atlantic. Again, that all depends on the positioning of the Bermuda High, flat out. Okay? So, that is what we're looking at. A storm that comes across Florida certainly can have an impact on us, but usually the impact is not water related. And boy, oh boy, after the last couple of days, we certainly know that the water, we've said it a million times, you hide from the wind, you run from the water. The water is the stuff that you just can't do anything about or mess with. You can't hunker down from water. You can from wind. So, there's what we have going. We have Franklin, we have Jose, we have the other area, we have what's left of Idalia, and then we have a system still over Africa right now that will probably emerge and begin to develop, and then we're going to have a stretch of more active weather, more active tropical weather coming up from there. And it's going to, I believe it's going to stretch right on from where it was in the Atlantic right through October. So, we're clearly in the peak month as of tomorrow. A third of all named storms develop in September. And October will be very active as well. It absolutely will. All right? So, when you're looking at the timeline, you also see a little uptick in the month of October. You see that? See that little uptick right there. See that one? It's like mid-October. Neat. I just had to. All right. Anyway, so you've got that uptick, and that is typically a Gulf of Mexico situation going in there. Okay? So when we look at that, that is when things start to get typically more active. Here's a trivia question for you. Which quadrant of a hurricane is the worst? Which do you think? The Northwest, the Northeast, the Southwest, or the Southeast? What do you guys think? I'm looking for the first answer. Popping up, Jill is correct, as is Darren, as is Jules. How you doing, Jules? Kenneth. You guys are smart. Jameson, guarantee would have never got that right. You'd be like, what? I don't know what you're talking about. You know why? Because they don't pay attention during weather. You know, Jameson, he'll be fixing his hair, or Wendy will be on her computer or something. And then after weather, they'll say, like, when we go to the commercial break, so Dennis, is it going to rain this weekend? I'm like, Anyway, let's go back, shall we? So it is the Northeast, okay? Breaking it down into 4 sections as the storm moves from south to north, the front right maximum is the greatest hurricane impact with that front right quadrant. The front left, you do get more surge. The back right, you get more wind. And the back left is usually the weakest one, but as they would say, still dangerous because you still have significant wind right around the eye wall, no matter what. And we all know the scale now. I've shown you this graphic before. Cat 1 typically will not do structural damage. You know, with our last storm, I think I made it really clear, painfully clear, that we were not going to get damaging winds because of the hurricane force winds only extended about 20 miles from the center, and that thing was 150 miles offshore. So you did not need to be a rocket scientist or a meteorologist to know that the hurricane-sustained winds would stay offshore. But the water, again, once you hit Cat 3, the winds do pick up, which is why we were starting to get really nervous in the Tallahassee area when they were hinting at Cat 4 within a few miles. But fortunately, you know, it's such a tough call because you say fortunately, and you even hate to say fortunately because somebody is going to get hit by a storm. You know, if it's not you, it might be somebody else. And I have survivor's guilt with that kind of stuff. I always had. You feel bad about it. But the fact is, the area that got hit by our last hurricane is probably the most rural coastal communities in all of Florida. Inland areas, there's definitely more people, but surge had far less of an impact than it would have if it had gone into the Tampa Bay area where, dare I say, hundreds of people would have probably died because they would not have evacuated because we always miss them, it seems like, right? And a lot of people are just like, it's going to miss us, it's going to miss us. And moving onshore closer to the Panhandle and up around Tallahassee, you've got just way more people. So the way that it played out was tragic in terms of the water issues for the Bay Area, and the loss of life was very minimal, fortunately. But it is that time of the year that you have to take this threat realistically and take it seriously. From now till the end of October, we are going to have a very, very active time in the tropics, flat out. There's just no way around it. It is going to remain extremely active. All right? So that's kind of an update on the tropics. I want to give you an update on the forecast right on through the holiday weekend, and I will answer your questions as well. Again, I want to thank you one more time for your incredible loyalty and everything about the last couple of days, the support, and it was a team effort as much as it possibly could have been, and you guys are awesome. So thank you. So here we go. We have rain out there right now, eastern Pasco, Polk County. There's more showers coming in off the Gulf. They'll kind of quiet down for a while. I do think they'll redevelop after midnight, just like we had last night. And I do think we are going to see quite a few showers after midnight. Again, as I said, I saw the stars. Thank you for the stars. Proceeds this week go to the Hurricane Relief Fund for the American Red Cross. And again, the same thing on our Etsy page. If you just go right above this post, you'll see our Rule Number 7 stuff, and proceeds benefit the American Red Cross right through the weekend. Usually we do Children's Miracle Network, but whenever there's a severe weather event, we'd like to kind of have the proceeds go toward the relief funds for that. So there's a look at the rain. Still some rain east of Tampa right now. Temperatures right now in the mid-80s. Humidity will be dropping this weekend. Hallelujah. Can you give me an hallelujah? Lower humidity, lots of sunshine, beautiful weather Sunday and on Labor Day. By the way, for the streamers, you guys are just about done. We'll be back on Tuesday with our next edition of Denis Phillips Live. We always do extra shows if things get active, but we're going to have a nice stretch. So enjoy your holiday weekend. If you're watching on streamers, you have a good night. Facebook, we are still here. 85 right now in Tampa. The dew point in the upper 70s. The feels like is still up around 100. 92 over 79 today. We hit 92. The average is 91. The record is 95. So there you see it. Thank you for the star, Eddie. I appreciate it, as does the American Red Cross. There's a look at Futurecast tonight. A few more scattered showers overnight. And I will check out your comments and questions after I give you the overview of the weather, and that will answer whatever it is you like. Ella, thank you very much. Abby has no questions tonight. Destiny's ready for a cold front. Denise, thank you very much. Lower humidity. Why is the humidity going to get lower? I'll throw that question out there. We have a westerly wind, right? We have a westerly wind, but what is a star party? Something came up in the bottom, star party opportunity is in. I don't even know what a star party is. Monica, thank you very much. Hello from Toronto. How you doing, Lyle? So you've got that westerly wind, right? And that blows everything from west to east, the remnant moisture. Sheila is correct. So when you get the winds shifting out of the northeast, northeasterly direction brings in drier air this time of the year. Lower dew points, lower humidity. And by the way, you may have forgotten this, but in 3 hours and 58 and a half, I'm losing my voice, shocker. 3 hours and 58 and a half minutes is the first day of meteorological fall. That's it, folks. We made it. Not really. Yes. Meteorological fall starts on September 1st. Astronomical fall starts on September 20th or 21st or 19th. It just depends on the year. But meteorological fall arrives in just under 4 hours. How about it? Woohoo! All right. So tomorrow morning, some morning showers, but on Saturday, the winds will be changing out of the northeast, and look what happens. The rain stacks up on the east coast. There it is, and starts to move toward the west like our summer pattern, but with a northeast wind as opposed to a southeast wind, drier air comes in. So watch the weather as of Sunday. Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon, Monday afternoon, very little chance of any rain. Christopher's waiting for the 540 line. That's probably going to be a little bit longer of a wait. The 540 line is the freezing line, by the way, for the new folks. And we love the 540 line around here. Upper 80s tomorrow in areas that get rain earlier in the day. Inland areas will be a little bit warmer because they'll get less rain until later on. Somebody's birthday. Happy birthday. So that's kind of a boring forecast right there with temperatures. Low 90s, lower humidity, some really nice weather. I do think rain chances return the middle of next week. Friday, solid coverage. Saturday begins to dry out. Sunday and Monday look to be beautiful. Hello from Ambrose Island in the Bahamas. Adam, you are in the Bahamas. Adam, have you always been in the Bahamas? How is it that I didn't know that? Maybe it's because I see your hurricane thing and I thought you were in Miami. Sean is correct. When I say we, I do mean Sean, because Sean is Mr. 540, as we call it here. And Jenny's ready for the snuggle alerts. You and me both, Jenny. So there it is. That yellow area down there is the one we've been talking about. We'll just have to keep an eye on the positioning of the ridging and the Bermuda High, because that is the key to everything. Thank you very much for the stars. I appreciate it. Feltina, thank you. Again, the Red Cross thanks you as well. Priscilla wants rain totals past 48 hours. Yeah, Sunday and Monday, I don't think we get any rain at all. Or if we do, it's going to be really, really scattered. It's kind of a backdoor cool front. Ryan, you are correct. Karen, thank you very much again. Oh, Michaela's counting down Black Friday. I'm with you on that. So there it is overnight. Look at that. I mean, scattered showers and storms overnight with more in store tomorrow. The Farmer's Almanac actually is calling for a much colder winter. I just saw that, Eric. I like looking at it. I find it interesting. I don't find it necessarily accurate, but I find it interesting. So there's a look at the beach forecast, or the boating forecast. Southwest winds 5 to 10 knots, water temperature 88 degrees. Sunrise tomorrow morning 7:09, sunset 7:51. The days are getting shorter. I don't know if we need the rain. I mean, I guess we still kind of do in some areas, but that's really tough. Thank you, Brett. Very kind. So there's a look at your beach forecast. Scattered storms from the morning to the afternoon, moving inland later on in the day. And there is the 7-day. Highs in the low 90s, morning lows. Look at the morning lows starting Sunday and Monday. Mid-70s. I don't know how many days till Christmas, Letitia, or Natasha rather, but I'm counting them myself. I am counting them myself. I am with you 100%. Matter of fact, so in the last week to 2 weeks, I have bought a 4-foot, I am a Home Depot Christmas Halloween fanatic. I bought a 4-foot animatronic Mickey Mouse, Santa Mickey, who recites "'Twas the Night Before Christmas." It's true. I bought a Santa that actually the sleigh and the 3 reindeers go up. So I'm thinking about putting them on the roof, but I don't know if they'll fall off the roof. I don't know how I can secure it to the roof. That's tricky. So I've already been going crazy on Home Depot shopping for Christmas stuff. So it is getting close. And yes, I did get another 12-foot skeleton. I got the Inferno. I had the 12-foot last year. This year I got the Inferno, which is 12-foot that's got like all the fire in his rib cage. Thank you very much, Sarah Diane. Appreciate it. Very kind. So, and of course, we have our hot chocolate and popcorn fundraisers. You are correct. 2nd and 3rd weekends in December. Our neighborhood, I'm inviting everybody out there right now. We're having a big old December celebration in our neighborhood with massive Christmas lights in the whole neighborhood. And the 2nd and 3rd Saturday, we do our hot chocolate and popcorn fundraiser for Children's Miracle Network. I hire the Pinellas County sheriffs. They come out and work traffic outside of our neighborhood to keep traffic moving. There have certainly been some HOA folks that have not been happy, but I've actually documented the traffic on non-hot chocolate days to be even longer than the hot chocolate days because we keep traffic moving with the police. So we do our best to keep the traffic moving because there are a lot of people that come to that neighborhood. I suggest coming during the week if you don't want to come for hot chocolate because there's a lot less traffic. And at the end of the day, too, a lot of people on the weekend park outside the neighborhood, which I suggest wholeheartedly, and then walk it. Because there are so many amazing neighborhood displays. It's Indian Trails in Palm Harbor. I mean, the neighborhood really comes together and just, it's such a great thing. And, you know, there's always going to be a Scrooge or two. That's just life. But in general, it is just a awesome group that just has 70, 80, 85, whatever it is, people. And a sad thing I want to note, too, with respect, we lost one of our amazing houses. A guy who has lived in the neighborhood for quite a while passed away about a month ago. His wife has 2 kids, had amazing displays with all these awesome inflatables, big Green Bay Packer fan, and we lost him to cancer about a month ago. So I think we're going to have a neighborhood get-together where a lot of people are going to be helping, keeping his tradition going strong because he loved Christmas every bit as much as I do. And just a really kind of a sad thing. So, you know, the neighborhood's coming together, and that's going to be something else that you'll see coming if you come over in December as well. So, again, that's about it, folks. Scattered showers tonight, scattered showers tomorrow, drying by the holiday weekend. The tropics, we're getting a little bit of a break in spite of all the blobs out there. We will watch the one for next week, see the positioning of the Bermuda High. But right now, as we've been saying for a while, the fact that El Nino typically shuts down the Caribbean, that is a good thing, meaning most storms that go into the Caribbean aren't really going to flourish. But as was the case with Idalia, however you pronounce it, that particular setup started right in the northern Gulf. Right in the northern Caribbean, southern Gulf. So, you know, there's less sharing, there's less opportunity for El Nino's impacts to negatively impact it. And obviously it happened. Once it hits that Gulf water, How many times for months have we said it's like jet fuel? And I get it. Jet fuel is cold because we actually have we had a guy who worked here for the longest time, and he was a big NASA guy. And I mentioned, it's like jet fuel. And he would shake his head. Dennis, jet fuel is cold. I'm like, I know, but you kind of know what I'm saying, right? So anyway, so I will be off on Monday. Shay is filling in for me. Thank you, Shay. We'll be back on Tuesday. Enjoy your holiday weekend. I hope you made it through the week okay without too much of an impact from the water. And again, I just want to thank you one more time for your loyalty, for your support, for your confidence in our team for the last 3 or 4 days. We put a lot of time into it, and we do it for you because at the end of the day, that's what we are here for. Not necessarily to always get the weather right, but to get you through severe weather events. And I think as a whole, that was what we tried to accomplish this week, and hopefully it helped. So have a great night, have a great weekend, and we will see you on our next edition of Denis Phillips Live, Tuesday night. See you guys. Have a good night.
One natural disaster could change your life forever. What can you do? Turn to AARP. We help older adults and their families prepare, respond, and recover with evacuation checklists to help you remember prescriptions and other essentials, information to help you avoid scammers, connections to on-the-ground emergency responders, and lots of other tips and tools. At AARP, we're here to help. Find us at aarp.org/local.